And so the questions before us are, how can academic medical centers identify the skills and competencies they need for their organizational leaders, and how can they improve the ways they recruit their top talent? To focus on those questions today, we have assembled a panel of expert thought leaders from institutions around the country, and I'd like to introduce them to you now. Starting on your left is Dr. Peter Buckley, the Associate Dean for Leadership Development and Chair and Professor of Psychiatry at the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta. And prior to joining MCG, Dr. Buckley was Professor and Vice Chair of Psychiatry at Case Western University School of Medicine. In the middle is Dr. Ron Swinford, Chief Medical Officer at Lehigh Valley Hospital and Health Network in Allentown, Pennsylvania, a role he has had since 2003, and prior to that he served as Chairman of the Department of Internal Medicine at the University of Missouri-Columbia. And on your right is Dr. Lois Nora, President and Dean of Medicine at the Northeastern Ohio University's College of Medicine and Pharmacy, a position she's held since 2002, and prior to that she was the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Administration at the University of Kentucky College of Medicine. I'd like to start off with referencing a Harvard Business Review article that appeared this past May, in May of 2009, which was on executive recruiting across industries and across nations. And a very interesting study where the authors concluded the following: current hiring practices across industries are haphazard at best and ineffective at worst. And even when companies find the right people, they have difficulty retaining them. So I'd like to start off with the panel. If you can consider your assessment of talent development and leadership recruitment and retention in academic medicine. Do we as an industry fare as poorly as the Harvard Business Review assessment charges? And what do you see our community's strengths and weaknesses along the lines of recruitment and retention of leadership in academic medicine? And we'll open it to the first brave soul who might want to take that on.
They're both looking at me. Well, I am struck that academic medicine has taken this very seriously over the past 5 to 10 years, and so I think that we are improving. I do think we have some of the same challenges. I actually believe that one of our strengths is that we are in some ways a small community, and so sometimes we know, or if we work hard, we know the talent that is out there. I think that can become one of our weaknesses because sometimes we are less likely to look at non-traditional candidates, and that substantially contributes to the lack of diversity that we have. And I think sometimes not looking at non-traditional candidates really becomes a weakness that we are perhaps more liable to than some of the corporate sector.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and the spectrum that we're dealing with, of course, is a little tighter than in the full business world. So we have some sense of, at least we have some commonalities as what we expect of a dean or an associate dean for academic affairs, student affairs, and so forth. So I think that's helpful. And we also probably don't give enough attention to that internal development where we know what we need, and we have people inside the organization that are capable of filling those roles, but we need to start years before to start that development in order to move them into that next role, next position.
A couple of comments in terms of kind of searching process itself. It's when you look across institutions, or if you're out interviewing as a consumer of search processes, these are highly variable across systems and even within institutions, because the Harvard Business document, by the way, suggests it's a different model. They suggest in business that you should have 1 to 2 people interviewing. Well, of course, we have hordes of people interviewing, and it's usually different people for different searches. And so that makes for an inconsistent process. It also makes for a complicated, timely process. I mean, the whole search process at institutions is a long process. So I think that's a difficulty that we have with our system. And then also, because institutions invariably commit a lot of activity to searches, and it is a career development opportunity, the baton gets passed often from person to person, where the new person then has to learn some of the mistakes of the prior person. And so we don't have like in other areas of business, we don't tend as a process, we don't tend to have streamline ways of going about searches, or indeed a consistency from one search to the other. Now, the AAMC had an original document that I'm sure several of you have read on the three modules. That's very helpful, but it's not as fine-grained in terms of processes. So I think the inconsistency across process and the length of time of search are certainly weaknesses for us.
We've tried to adopt something of the corporate model and try and do a hybrid a bit at NeoUCOM. An individual who is our Vice President for Strategic Alliances actually runs or is very keenly involved in most of our Vice President level, Director level searches, and has been available, and chair searches, and has been available to chairs when they recruit faculty, although she is less engaged in that. But when you think about it, I mean, what are the most important strategic alliances we make? This individual works with outside institutions, but the people that we recruit, the people that we retain, that is our most important steps in strategy. We did this about 4 or 5 years ago because we were frustrated with some of the I think we lost a candidate that we were interested in, and we just didn't feel we had as much commonality among the searches. And so now we have a very standard process up to the point of having some finalists, and then we do bring people in and have them talk with all of the executive team and the like, because fit is what it is all about, and that is our best way of assessing their competency base and their fit with our institution, but it is also critically important to them deciding whether or not they fit with our institution.